Hello and welcome back to this week's art project. We're going to continue on with our 1-point perspective picture. What we're going to do today is we're going to kind of wrap up some details on the house/barn, and over here on this side, what we're going to do is we're going to add some telephone poles and a fence, and then you can add some other details on your own. I will give you some pointers to help it out. So for this, couple things I want to make sure people are paying attention to. Before you get started this time, just make sure that you've gone in and yours compares to mine pretty good, so that there's nice straight lines going to the vanishing point. Okay, that this side of the road is roughly 2 inches, so you could take a ruler like this one, and is about 2 inches from the center of the road to the first part of the sidewalk. And then the same thing on here, about 2 inches from the center of the road to the sidewalk. And the sidewalk itself is about 1 inch wide at the bottom and about 1 inch wide at the bottom on this side. They should look pretty symmetrical. Okay. You will need obviously your drawing, ruler, and eraser and a pencil. Okay. I'm not going to be worried about any coloring today because today is just detail work. I think there'll be enough going on just getting that taken care of. So I'm going to make mine like a barn, but a barn and a house are very similar, so there's not going to be that much difference. Okay, so over here on this side, let's say if you wanted to make a house, you would want a window here. Well, luckily, because this part of the house is actually facing right at us, it would be just a normal square or rectangle. So for me, since I want this to be a barn, first I'm going to get rid of this line that's right here, so that it looks like it's all one big shape there. And then I'm going to draw in a door. Now I'm not going to measure this particular door. Now this is only on this side of the house. This is the only side it's going to work on. That. So there's my door. Now, if I had shrunk this and made that a little bit smaller, it could be a window. Okay? Same thing here. Now, the difference is, if you notice, this whole side of the building is getting smaller as it gets close to the vanishing point. So we're going to want, obviously, a door for our house or your barn. So it's not really hard to do. You just have to do it in the right order. So there's no perfect measurement for this, so it doesn't really matter which side. You just really want a nice straight edge. And what I'm going to do is, for a door, I need to know how tall I want my door to be. So it's got to go straight up and down like this. And I always start closer to the big side than I do the small side, because it's a lot easier to get it all lined up. So this is how tall my door is going to be. Now, the roof of the door cannot be perfectly flat because the whole house is slanted back to this vanishing point. So we need to slant the top of the door to match. So again, line up with the vanishing point. Draw how big you need your door to be. Now, since I'm doing a barn, I need a big door so farm equipment and animals can get in and out. If you are doing a house, you probably want a little bit skinnier door. So there's the top of mine. In fact, I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger because I want like a big tractor to be able to go through. Okay. Then all I need to do is use my ruler, and I can go straight back down like that. So this becomes my big doorway. Now, if you made it skinnier, let's say you put a line right here, okay, then you'd have a door for a house. Okay. I'm not worried about siding because honestly, that's a lot of line work. I'm not worried about bricks. Again, a lot of line work that you really honestly don't want to mess with. Okay. Remember, this is a good video to pause, rewind, play a second time just to get an idea of what you're gonna do. Now, this door for me is gonna be wide open. I'm gonna have it black when I get around to coloring it so that it looks like you can just go right inside it. The other thing I like to do is, because this is a doorway, I like to make like a sidewalk or a path that goes from the door over. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just draw a straight line from where the bottom of the door is, making sure my ruler looks nice and flat according to the bottom of the paper. I'm going to draw it over to the sidewalk and stop. I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom of the door over here. Again, making sure my ruler is nice and straight. And then I draw it like that. Now it looks like they just drive right onto the road. Okay, looking pretty good. Next, what I'm going to do is we need to put in a horizon line. I think at this point that would be a helpful item to have. Those of you that remember what a horizon line is, it is a line that separates the sky from the ground. Now we kind of already have a horizon line in there and we've been using it. We're going to be using this fold here that is on our paper. So I am going to just lightly, or actually darker because I want you to be able to see it. And it goes right past my vanishing point. So it's going to go right through my vanishing point. I'm not putting it through the house. That doesn't make any sense. I'm going to put it going behind the house like this. Okay. Now we're just going to have a nice straight horizon line because it's just easier to deal with right now. But make sure your vanishing point still is visible because you're going to need that. Okay. Next, on this side, I had mentioned that we were going to do telephone poles. We need to do telephone poles that are tall, so they would be a bit taller than the house. I'm going to have them go. Let's have them start about here, okay? I don't want them right next to the sidewalk. I want them a little further away. And I'm actually gonna use my finger as my measurement. I want you to take your thickest finger. If you have really skinny fingers, then use your thumb. And that's how thick our first one's gonna be. So I'm gonna put a dot on both sides of my finger. So that's how thick it needs to be. And I need this line to go straight up and down. So I'm going to look at my ruler, compare it to the edge of the paper, make sure they're looking straight up and down together, and then I need it to be pretty darn tall. So I'm going to go really pretty close to the top of the paper here. And I need to do the other line as well. Again, making sure they look nice and straight. Don't want it slanted. Okay. The bottom of a telephone pole is round, so we're going to make sure it looks round here. And because it's above the horizon line, the top of the pole looks rounded a little bit. Like that. And then later on we can put the cross piece in. And then we just erase the part of the horizon line that is inside it, because this is in front of that line. Okay, next we need to get a whole line of telephone poles going towards the vanishing point, so it looks like a street that would have power to it. So how do we get them to line up and look right? Well, it's not real difficult, but we do have to use this vanishing point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the bottom of my side here, and I'm going to put a line here to the vanishing point. Get it actually lined up here like this. You're going to draw it light. I'm drawing it dark so you can actually see what I'm doing. Like that. And I'm going to do the same thing to the top. Going to line it up with this vanishing point. Like that. Now it looks totally weird. Like, why would we have these lines here? Well, these lines are telling you how tall these poles have to be as they get smaller, closer to the vanishing point. So this is how tall it has to be. This is where it needs to start. So let me show you. I don't want them right next door to each other. I want to spread them out. I'm going to put a telephone pole right here. Now notice my second line doesn't go all the way to the edge because I need to have room to do the rounded top and bottom. Okay. So there's my pole. My next one's a little bit further back here. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Notice that I'm getting a little bit skinnier each time because it's further away, they would look skinnier. I'm going to add a really tiny one way back here in the distance. Like that. Okay, so you see how they're going off the distance. Then I can get rid of this line. Actually, I can use this because it was just a guideline. It was there just to tell me how tall things had to be, and now it's gone. And I can get rid of this line as well. Now, some people actually keep this line and they just change it a little bit to make it fit for the power line itself, but I do it differently. Okay, so then what I can do is I can go in here add in a cross piece. And then erase, so it looks like it's in front. And then I just go in and do the same to each one, but remember these have to get skinnier each time. Like that. And then what I could do is I could draw a line from each one of these if I wanted to. Okay, next is realistically, I'm not going to do the fence. I think this part is enough for the distance, but what I would like to do is throw in some other details. And with these other details, you got to be careful. So let me give you an example of a detail that people would want. Some people want to have a bush. That's great. Okay, got this bumpy line bush. But this size bush does not make sense back here. It's too big. So when you make something back towards this line is supposed to be very far away. The horizon line is very far away. So if you were making a bush that's going to be back here, it would need to be smaller. It could still be a little bit above the vanishing point, but it needs to be small. Same thing with, let's say you wanted a tree. You could have some trees in there, but you got to think about the distance. Because if it's really close, the tree would be really big. So if I wanted a tree, this wing would have to be really pretty big because it's in front of this house. That, and then it might be covering up part of the horizon line. Okay. So I could have a tree like an evergreen tree. Again, it's got to be smaller if it's going to be by the horizon line. Maybe you want cactuses in there. Maybe you want a river or stream. Mine's more of a stream. It would get really small in the back. I'm going to have that go this way. Like that. I do not recommend putting in cars, people, or animals, and this is the reason why. It gets very difficult to make sure they look like the right size for this picture because of the proportions and the sizing that we're doing going to the vanishing point. If you put a squirrel in and you make a squirrel this tall and you put it right here, well, that's a monster squirrel because that's as big as the doorway. So it's really difficult to get animals sized correctly. Plants are a little bit easier to do, and that's why I kind of recommend that. The other thing I need you to do is do something with your sky area. So an example, you could have clouds. I need you thinking about what kind of sky you want. Do you want it to be daytime? Do you want it to be nighttime? Okay. Do you want it to be kind of funny? So in past years, I've had somebody who did a whole farm kind of theme, and then they added in a alien ship off to the side that was abducting a cow, and that was hilarious. I loved the picture and the thought process behind it. But you got to be careful with what you're doing, because if you add too much, it gets a little cluttered, but also it does have to be school appropriate. Okay. The other thing is people ask, well, does it have to be perfectly flat? Can we leave this horizon line, but can we add in maybe some hills or mountains? Yeah, you could go in and add some mountains, and then you could figure out, well, do you want it to be a daytime picture? Do you want to be a sunset? Is it a cloudy, rainy day? I had people doing a desert theme with their house before. I've had people do other themes for different kinds of climates. So, I mean, there's all kinds of different things you do. I've had people do a starry night theme in the background. I've had people do like fireworks in the background, lots and lots of different things. Just try not to overly clutter your picture too much, because we got to make sure we get rid of any extra lines with our picture. So your focus today is to finish up some of the details, making sure things line up with the vanishing point like I showed you. Okay. I would like telephone poles on this side. Okay. That way you can see, and you are showing me that you understand how these things are, even though they're the same object, they're getting smaller going further in the distance. Okay, then I need you to put in some extras details. That is more than enough, I think, for today. Next week we'll deal with coloring. Coloring's not super difficult, but you do have a specific thing or two that you're going to want to watch out for. Okay, so when you get this done, all the detail work done, snap a photo of it like we have in the past, upload it to Google Classroom, and you're good to go. I'll see you next week.